This is the ultimate DIYer's guide to plastering. So step 1 is the most important part out of all the steps that I'm going to mention. So if you get this right, then you're setting yourself up for success. Now in this video I'm going to mention everything I can think of about plastering and learning how to plaster, so make sure you watch the full video right to the end so you don't miss out on any tips. So yeah, step 1 is the prep. So basically what I mean by that is, before you even do anything, make sure you've got all the wallpaper off the wall if you're stripping wallpaper from it. This is the wall I'm going to be demonstrating it on today. Then also you want to go around on any cracks and any channels that you've had chased out for electrics with this jointing tape. The type of tape you want is this extreme, extra sticky tape. Tape like this as well, but honestly I wouldn't even bother, I'll just go straight for this one. Get the right type of corner bead as well. I've just gone for a thin coat, which is normally all you'll need. So once you've got a clear wall, you've got the corner beads on, you've got the tape on where you need it, then you can be ready to start PVAing the wall. Now there's lots of different ways you can prep the wall. I've used traditional way, using PVA, watered down. I've also used a blue grip before on other walls. This is more for if you're going straight onto concrete or block, porous materials basically. You don't need to use it on this wall. If you are going to use this, just bear in mind that it does hold a lot more plaster. Yeah, for now we're going to keep it simple, just use the traditional methods, PVA. A 70% water, 30% PVA mixture for the first coat. So this will basically seal any dust that is remaining onto the wall and also create a film layer for the plaster to adhere to. And this is why you want to use the orange tape, because this one's just rubbish. So I've never actually seen anyone say this before, but one thing I did find that if you do have flaky paint, put the first layer of PVA on and then scrape the wall after once it's dried. It seems to come off a lot easier. So I'll show you now. Areas like this here, they just seem to come straight off. So yeah, you want to make sure before you start plastering that all this is gone, because the last thing you want is to put your plaster on and then it to peel off. So once you've done your coat or 2 coats of the weak mixture, I usually do a thicker mixture of PVA, and what you want to do is you want to let that go tacky and then you can start mixing your plaster. Right, so a bag of multi-finish will state that you need 11.5 litres of water per bag. So if you get yourself one of these plastering buckets, I've measured out here the 11.5 litre line just to make my life easier, and yeah, you can just do it that way. Also, plastering, you want to get yourself some of these extra time plaster retarder. Yeah, and these are really good for when you're starting out. So in terms of the tools, because it is important, you want to get yourself a decent trowel. This is a Marshalltown trowel. It's also worn down quite a lot because I've used it. This, on the other hand, is a Wix newer trowel. Obviously it's a lot bigger, but you'll find that because it's not worn in and because it's not the best quality, that will affect it a lot as well. So I tend to use this just to get the first coat on the wall, and then I'll use this to smoothen off, or just use this the whole way through. So other things you'll need is a fork and just a couple of buckets. To mix the plaster up, I just use this old drill with an adapter on the end and one of these. You can get these pretty cheap, it's like 12 quid I think. Yeah, if you've got an old drill, just use that. If you haven't, then it's probably worth buying a proper mixer. If you're using the plaster retarder, make sure you mix that first with the water and then add the plaster little bits at a time to get a smooth consistency. So this brings us on to step 2, and that'll be the first coat of plaster. Make sure you check the wall that it's still tacky, and then you can start. I normally start from the top and then the bottom second. So obviously you want to wet your tools up first. So the main thing is with this, you just want to get it on the wall and then worry about everything else later. So what you can do as well is you can prime your tools, and this just helps it stick to the hook basically. Try not to think about it too much, worry about getting the first coat on. So as I mentioned, I usually start from the top first, go in about a third way down, and then when you come to do the bottom you can feather that in. So at the point where you've stopped in the middle, you should be feathering that into the original wall, i.e. a thinner coat, and then when you come to the bottom you'll go slightly past that, giving you an even layer the whole way through. So I hope that makes sense on the video. You can see me coming right from the bottom and then going slightly past where I stopped originally, and that basically just feathers the whole thing together. And this is why I started from left to right as well, because I knew that this side, although it's only a simple opening, that would take me longer, and I'd rather just do the main wall first and then worry about that after. So that's another thing I'd recommend. Once the first coat's on, this is where it kind of comes together, so you want to get your trowel all cleaned up again, and then you want to start smoothing it off with water if you need it. Once you've gone over the trowel, once it starts to dry and you've flattened out as best as you can, still don't worry because you've got another coat to do, but what you can also do is get yourself a brush and a spray bottle and go around all the corners and all the top by the ceiling, just brush it all out to make it all smooth, because what you don't want it to dry and then having to scrape it off and sand it all down. So yeah, do that next. Okay, so the first coat's on. I've done everything I need to do. It's starting to dry out now, so I'm going to start mixing the second batch, and then yeah, I'm probably just going to film that and then do a voiceover because I want to get it on as soon as possible. So now we're on to step 3, which will be the second coat. So there's a few differences with the second coat. Whereas the first coat I went a third of the way down, on the second coat I'm going a little bit further. This is just to cover any sort of mistakes that I made the first time. You want the mixture to be slightly thinner as well compared to the original coat, and take a little extra care on this coat as it is the final layer. This tool I'm using here is called a speed skim. It's definitely not essential to do the job, but it does help with flattening out. The second coat's on. I've gone over the corners and I've brushed out any imperfections on the main wall as well. So now this is the most important part aside from the prep. So what you want to do now is get your clean trowel, get some water. You want to start working the wall and basically get it as perfect as you can. There's a couple of techniques and certain ways that I like to do it, which I'll put in the video obviously. Obviously start from where you first started on the wall and then work your way along. So on a closer look, so you can see the brush marks here. So just so you can see what effect it has when you go over it at the end. So you obviously put a little bit of water on. You don't want to use too much water. So I'm not sure how much you can see on the camera, but this is the finish that the paint will go onto, so you want it to be as smooth as possible. So I want to start from the top corner first and get the corner out both ends. Once you've done that, you're going to get some water on the trowel, and then you go across the whole thing, and you see how it leaves this sort of trail of water underneath. You can use that for the next row, and then so on. Also along the way you'll start picking up some excess, which you can use if you find any gaps that need filling. So this is where it's handy to have this scaffold board. You can do the full length of the wall there. So as I said, this is the final thing to do. So I'm using the scaffold board to do the whole length. You might not have one of these, but just do as best as you can. So don't go overboard with the water, and also this is the time where you can add a little bit more pressure and just get it as smooth as possible. You might be wondering when you should do all this. Well, for me on this day, I don't know if it's because I was filming or what, but it was basically consecutively one after another. I just went straight into each step, but usually once it's starting to harden up, you don't want it to be too wet. That was the Ultimate DIY's Guide to Plastering. I hope there was something useful in there that you could learn from. If you're going to give it a try, good luck and just be confident. This is a finished product. Now I'm aware that I may have missed something, or there might be some questions that you want to ask if you're interested. So put those in the comments and I'll make sure I reply to every comment as soon as possible. And yeah, thanks for watching and make sure to subscribe.